how many of you know what you want to do with your life? How many of you are told what to do with your life? At this point in your life, there are so many voices guiding you. You've got your counselors, your teachers, your parents, other students, friends, mentors. There's so many choices that you can make and paths you can take. The world is out there for you. Which voices will you listen to? What will your story be, and which path will you take? Because your path is your journey, and your journey is your story. And each and every one of us has a story. So I'll start with my story. Today, I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own business, Ms. Media, and I have clients all over the world. I work with now Emma Thompson's team on a new feature film called Sold. I work with a global IT company called Wipro. I have worked with Frida Pinto and Priyanka Chopra on Girl Rising. I've traveled to Jamaica for the United Nations. And I also work for a small little school for girls, slum girls in India, in the middle of India, and I tell their stories. I travel all over the world, and right now I'm here on this stage talking to you. Here's the interesting thing about this, and that is that I only started my business a little over a year ago. So sometimes I take a step back and I think, how is this happening? How is this me? Because what you see today is not always how it's been. There's a backstory. And that story is that paving my path, I hit a lot of roadblocks, I hit struggles. It wasn't always easy. But all those experiences culminated in what I am today. And I realized that there were a lot of voices out there that I had to listen to, the words of wisdom, but in the end, the truth is that I had to listen to my own voice. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my family history. I come from a family of doctors. My father is a doctor. He's a renowned thyroid specialist. Both of his brothers are PhDs. One is a world-renowned physicist, and the other one is a geophysicist. My brother's a doctor, my husband's a doctor, his brother and his brother's wife are all doctors. So there are a lot of expectations in my family. My father came to this country as a new immigrant in 1966, and talk about a story of survival. He left Burma at age 6 in the middle and the peak of World War II during the bombings with his family with only what they could carry in their hands. 5 years later, it happened again. They had to flee from Pakistan because of the independence and the partition between Pakistan and India in 1947. So at this point, they're living in poverty. Then they lost their father to illness. Their situation was dire. So at that point, they could have said, why me, why us, we just can't go on. But they listened to their mother's voice. And their mother's voice said, no, keep going. Because this is only going to be one chapter in the entire story of your life. So I'm going to start with chapter 1 of my story. I stopped talking. So I like to say that I knew what I wanted to do from the day I was born. As a child, I was the one up on the stage singing, dancing, acting. And then as an adult, I had a career in radio and television broadcasting. I am the most talkative person in my family. I love to talk. I still love to talk. I made a living out of talking on television for over 20 years. But at age 11, during orientation for middle school, which went on for like 3 days, we were carpooling and my so-called friends decided to play a little joke on me. They decided that they would just stop talking to me, just flat out ignore me. But here's the thing, that joke went a little too far. Because what they did was they started to tell all the new kids in school not to talk to me either. So I started first day of middle school at age 11 being basically completely ignored. I sat alone at lunch and I had no friends. This went on for 2 months. It was one of the most lonely and scary times of my life, but it also was, I would say, the most significant, influential, and pivotal times of my life. So was it the time that I decided that I wanted to be heard? Yeah, maybe. Was it the time that I decided I wanted to be a communicator for a living? Maybe a little early for that sort of aha moment, but possibly. But what I did decide was that I was going to listen to my own inner voice, and I was going to keep going. So in comes chapter 2, Dr. Dad and the letter D. So at that time in my life, there were really only 4 professions or professionals that were respected and accepted in the Indian culture. And those were doctor, lawyer, engineer, and computer whiz. Journalist, not so much. So my dad was a tenured professor at the George Washington University Medical Center, and that's where I went to school, GW. And so my dad, he walked me through registration and signed me up for classes, pre-med classes, because I was his firstborn, and of course, the expectation was that I was going to be a doctor, until I got, in the first semester of freshman year, a D in biology. So, yeah, you don't understand, like a B in my family was for bad. A D was for you're in the doghouse. A D was for your life is in danger. A D was not for doctor. So thus, that ended any hopes and dreams of me being a doctor. But I'll tell you what it did do. I started to listen to my inner voice. I went back to the dean. I changed my major to radio and television communications, and I kept going. So chapter 3, TV anchor or not. Well, in the late 80s and early 90s, there really were no Indians, South Asians in the media or television that we could speak of. I mean, today, there's so many names that we can mention right off the bat. There's Mindy Kaling, there's Priyanka Chopra, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, people on TV doing anchoring jobs, people that we watch every day. But not at that time. At that time, I had no doors to knock on, no network to fall back on. I had to blaze my own trail. So I got married really young. I got married at, age 21. And I had to move to London, or near London, because my husband, the doctor, was doing his internship. So we moved 50 miles outside of London, about east of London, to a place called Southend-on-Sea. And, I had an American accent, I didn't know anyone, I had no network, but I decided to make those phone calls to find what job I could get. And every phone call I made was, sorry love, click, sorry love, click, as soon as they heard my American accent, except for one station called Essex Radio and Breeze AM. And they said, well, we have a part-time receptionist position available, and I said, I'll take it. And so what I did was I used that as an opportunity. Every single person that walked into that door, I was the first person they saw, and I said, I want to be on the radio, I want to be on the radio. And within a month that happened. But then my husband decided, you know what, I actually want to move back to the States and try my hand at medicine there and do my residency there. So back to Washington, back to not knowing anyone and having to start all over again. So I got a job, an entry-level position at Mix 107.3, WMAL, worked my way into doing some fill-in radio work, and worked really hard. The big moment for me was when I got a job on the morning news at Channel 9. I mean, I was over the moon. It was my dream job. I was anchoring and reporting and breaking news and sitting at the desk with the icons in the industry. I worked really hard. I got mentors and people who believed in me, and I got awards and respect and recognition. And I really did. I felt like I had made it. It was great until 9/11 happened. And I was pregnant with my 3rd child. And that's when I think a lot of us reassessed what we wanted to do with our lives and our priorities. And I decided, okay, so I think I'm going to use this as a time for me to just be home and be a mom. But what I did was, I took a few years off, but I always kept myself relevant. I continued to freelance and keep my foot in the door. So a few years later, I got rehired by Channel 9, another great opportunity. But something had changed. My priorities, like I said, had changed. I had different goals. I wanted to be an anchor. But my boss at the time did not want me in that position. So I heard a story by a rabbi, an 85-year-old rabbi, Dr. Tversky, and he compared human lives to lobsters. So wait for it, it makes sense when I'll tell you what happens. So a lobster shell never grows, but the lobster inside it, as it grows, it becomes confined and restricted and uncomfortable. So what does it do? It has to come out and start again and grow another shell. So I think that that's what happened to me. I realized that I had outgrown that shell and I needed to grow another one. So what I did was I reassessed, hit a roadblock, this huge boulder that was not allowing me to move on that path. And I looked around that boulder and I said, I have to listen to my inner voice. And I did the unthinkable. I quit TV and I just kept going. So have you heard of the phrases, find a way to make one? One door closes, another door opens. Well, today I run my own business, and it's exciting, and it's exhilarating, and it's exhausting, and I am having the best time of my life. And I spoke to one of my mentors, another entrepreneur, about this, and he said, are you in your space? Do you feel good about your day? And I can tell you right here, right now, that I feel great about my day. And I realize that when I connect the dots of the experiences of my life, from the time that my father at age 6 had to flee from Burma during bombings to that little 11-year-old scared girl who was alone at age 11 in middle school, to my career where I had the believers and the non-believers. All of those experiences have led me to where I am today. And I also realized that I've had to do that with faith, with perseverance and passion. And I've had to listen to my inner voice. So the unexamined life is not worth living. That's not one of my mentors that said that. That was Socrates. But that's one of the voices that resonates with me. Because that means if you don't try, how will you know? How will you know? So this by no means is the last chapter in my story of my career or my life. I cannot wait to see what happens next. The challenges and the triumphs, it's all going to make for a great story. And as you pave the path for your story, you will hit obstacles. And you will hear voices telling you that it can't happen. But I'm here to tell you that it can happen. My life story will be a good one. So I have a t-shirt that says, my life story will be a good one. And I can tell you that it's true because it says it on my t-shirt. And as you pave your path and you keep going, listen to your inner voice, because I hope it says, my life story will be a good one. Thank you.